We had a great day. We were able to sign 23 players from 8 different states, and 10 of those kids will be coming in here mid-year, with the other 13 will come in late May, early June. The greatest thing I think about this class is, once they were committed, they stayed committed to us, and I think that says a lot about our coaching staff and the relationships that they had built with these guys. But really, really happy that there was no drama. It seems like every year at this point there's a lot of leaving and coming, and that didn't happen to us, and so really grateful for that. And we had Zoom in-home meetings with them last week and then again this week, and there was never any indication that they were talking to other people, interested in other people. And for that, we as our entire staff are grateful for that, and we're very pleased with the kids that we signed today.
Dudley?
Coach, you've been talking about wanting to add a couple of defensive linemen you may have known before today, but how big was that to kind of solidify the class with 3 total defensive linemen?
I think it is big, and they are big physically. I think that was big to pick up Cam Ball on a public announcement today. We've known for quite a while, and Jalen Williams. We still have some scholarships available, and I think we still need at least one more D lineman, preferably maybe a pass rushing defensive end, and at least one more offensive lineman. And if I had my druthers, I would, I'd like to go 2 and 2 on both sides. Although we have one available scholarship and we can push 3 forward, but. As of right now, the thoughts are going big and going on both sides of the ball. But obviously, we would take other positions of need if somebody gets in a transfer portal that we think could help us.
Danny?
Hey, Coach, I may be wrong here with my dates, but I think March 7th was the last time you could have anybody on campus. Then, of course, everything went virtual. I'm wondering, what were some of the pros and cons of going virtual, and do you think that's going to change maybe how coaches look at unofficials and all these visit opportunities going forward?
I think there's going to be way more of the Zoom world, even when you can go out and see kids, and when you can have them on campus. I think there'll be a little bit more Zoom world, especially with the kids that aren't close, in our state or bordering or can't get here. We've learned a lot, especially me. I've learned a lot about technology. I'm still way behind most people, but learned a lot about technology, and this, even what we're doing right here, was very, very uncomfortable back in March. And now it just seems to be, what we do, So I think we'll add a little bit of what we're doing right now to our recruiting, and certainly we'll look forward to going out and being able to get face-to-face with our recruits, or at least see them at practice.
Nikki?
Nate's having a hard time.
Yeah. No, Sam, unless I miscounted, there are only like 3 from Arkansas. Is that a concern that you only had? I could have miscounted that, but there are less from Arkansas than you would have liked this year?
Well, we got 4 from Arkansas, and I don't know that we offered a whole lot more than that. Certainly you want to get a lot of kids in your own state. I believe that the Razorback means something to them, but we did not get every kid in our state that we offered, even though we would have liked to, but we were not able to lock down the state totally.
Nikki? Yeah, Coach, what do you think you've added with the skill position guys, especially the wide receivers, that could definitely be an area where there's room for a young guy to come in and impact?
Yeah, I thought Coach Stepp did a great job with those guys. And if you look, there's a lot of talent there with Keytron and Rocket and Jaden and Bryce. Um, Bryce Stevens will have a decent chance, a good chance to win the 100 meters and the 4A there in Oklahoma, and AJ's won it. The running back there, AJ Green, and I know we're talking specifically about wideouts, but we got good speed. Obviously Keytron Jackson is a highly recruited kid. Rocket Sanders can play several different spots. We want him as a running back, as a wide receiver, but he's going to play running back for us as well. He's a big athletic guy. And of course, Jaden Wilson is he's a long ball threat, can catch, a nice, great size on him. And you look at the DBs, and we signed 5 of them, so obviously Barry, our system runs 3 safeties back there and 2 corners. And so we wanted to go heavy at that position. We got some really good safeties in that group. We got a nice transfer, Trent Gordon at corner, that we hope and feel like will come in here and give us immediate help. And then, Keywan Parker has great speed, the kid out of Booker T. And Chase Lowry is an athletic guy that can help us in punt returning as well as corner or possible safety. And then Jermaine Hamilton Jordan is a guy that could play a nickel all the way back to a safety position for us. So I think those guys right there, Nikki, we're very, very pleased with those guys. We needed help, and certainly Coach Carter and Coach Stepp did a great job of recruiting their position.
Tom?
Hi, Sam. Could you say a couple of words about the 2 quarterbacks you got in this class?
Yeah, I like them. They're Landon Rogers, obviously here in the state, very big, very athletic. I think he's a guy that would really fit into what we're doing offensively, and has a very strong arm. I think he's still developing. I think he can become much better than what he is right now, but he can run. He's got really good speed, and he's a physical guy, big. Lucas Coley is certainly a guy that's a run and pass threat as well. Not quite as big as Landon, but has played a good ball there in Texas and had a lot of success, very smart. So we felt like we needed 2 quarterbacks in this class. That was one of the things that we started the whole needs with a long time ago, and Coach Browse was able to get those guys to come here.
Otis?
Yeah, Coach. Can you talk a little bit more about each of those defensive linemen? Maybe what each of them do well. Solomon and the 2 you got today, and also Outley. Just talk about him. You were thin at tight end, and Aaron Outley can help you also. So talk about those 4 if you don't care.
Solomon Wright, I loved him. I loved him on tape. He has great explosiveness and can really run. Now, he's not quite as tall as what your typical D lineman would be in the SEC, but he's also much quicker and can run. And I loved him when I saw him on tape. I knew his daddy. His dad played there at Kenyatta, played there at Oklahoma State, and he's a wonderful guy. And we went after him hard, and I was really happy we were able to sign him. Jalen Williams. We've been on him for a long time. We tried. He was a high school qualifier, and we tried to get him last year to come in and help us. And he wanted to wait and see his other options and different things and play there to junior college and all that stuff. And we were able to get him. He's over 300 pounds. And then Cam Ball, we've recruited him, seemed like forever as well. But he's a guy that, you know, I think a lot of teams have looked at both ways, offensive or defensive line, but he wants to play D-line. I think our needs are both sides, but we need some young, big defensive linemen, and he was able to fit that bill. We were very fortunate to get him. And then Aaron Outley, he was one of the guys, the first guys in this class when I got here that I wanted to offer. I thought he fit in perfectly with what we do. Obviously had an unfortunate injury there, but his injury is healing well. He'll be on time. He's on time on his schedule. But I just thought he was exactly what we need as a tight end, maybe what other teams are playing with at tight end. And I was very, very high on him, still am.
Hutch.
Yes, Sam, I was going to ask you more specific about Trent Gordon, how he popped up on your radar. And also he was a corner, then I think he moved to safety this year. Where do you project him being in the secondary when he gets here?
We signed him to play corner, and, you know, he went into the portal, and Sam evaluated him. Coach Carter evaluated him. Barry did, and then I did. And just a wonderful kid. You know, he's from Texas, so it allowed him to get back closer to home, playing the SEC. And we're just really happy we got him, but we want to play him at corner.
Scotty.
Yeah, hey, Coach, I was wondering what jumps out to you and your staff about the offensive linemen that you got in this class.
Yeah, I really like the guys we got. You know, Terry Wells, I think, was the very first one. You know, he's a 305-pound kid that really has great feet, smart, and I think he can develop into an excellent offensive lineman. Cole Carson, I think him and Devin Manuel both came here on the same junior day, I believe. I think all three of them were here, to be honest with you. Could be wrong on that, but I think all three of them were at junior day and at the same time. And Cole, the only thing with Cole was I wanted to see how big he was, and he came in, and I know he's as bigger than Frank Ragnow was. I remember thinking that whenever I first met him, and I loved him because he had his name on the back of his belt. You know, I kind of like guys like that, and I liked his athleticism on field. I liked his natural ability to explode through his hips. And then Devin Manuel, the first thing that kind of caught my eye about Devin was not necessarily his size, because he's huge, but his basketball skill. You know, I think the first few clips that I saw on him, watching him, was from playing basketball. He's a very good basketball player, very light on his feet. I don't know if raw is the word, but I think there's a lot of things we can do there to help him technique-wise and things of that nature. He's very well coached in high school, but I think when he gets here, the sky's the limit, because he is very athletic and he's huge. And those are the type of kids we need in our program on the offensive line.
Bob.
Sam, you know, typically Arkansas signs 1, 2, maybe 3 good players from Oklahoma. Sometimes don't sign any. You guys signed 6. That's a huge haul. I know you're from there, and you have other coaches with ties to the state. What was the key to getting such a big haul? How do you feel about that group, and anything you want to say about those guys individually?
Well, I really like that group. You know, we went over there, and if you really look at the kids we signed, for the most part, we signed a lot of speed out of the state of Oklahoma with A.J. Green, certainly Keywan Parker, Bryce Stevens. Those guys can really run, and so can Javion Hunt. But with Javion, I mean, you sign a guy that their high school's won 5 state championships in a row, very tough. Their main running back for several years. And then, of course, we signed Cam Little, who, in our opinion, is as good a kicker as there is in the country. And we were very fortunate to get him. You know, you'd look from here to Oklahoma City, and I don't think it's much more than 3 hours. Maybe if it is, it's not much more than that. And, of course, Tulsa's, you know, what it depends on how fast and traffic, but you're looking at an hour and a half, and we should go over there to Oklahoma and signing 6 out of there. Certainly was a plan. You know, when you get the head coaching job, you try to form your staff around obviously good men, good coaches, and then good recruiters, and then where can they go into? You know, we still have a Georgia ties on our staff, and we were able to go in Georgia and sign, I think, 3. And we have Oklahoma guys, myself, Cooper, Brad Davis played at the University of Oklahoma. So we have several different guys that have ties in the state of Oklahoma, and it certainly was good for us this year.
Yeah, Barry's from Oklahoma too, right? Barry Odom, he's from Oklahoma.
Yeah, Barry's from Maysville and Ada, and certainly, so that's another guy. You're right.
Hey, Benny.
Yeah, Coach, I think you'd probably say that there's certain core principles that make somebody a good recruiter, but also there's probably more than one way to skin a cat. And Justin Stepp is developing a pretty solid resume right now as a recruiter. And I was curious what he does that's similar to what you do, and maybe what he does that's different than what you do to allow him to have some success.
I think there's, you know, certainly some similarities. I mean, a good recruiter works hard, but I've seen guys that work hard that didn't sign people too, you know. I mean, but the first thing, you have to be a relentless working guy. I mean, and it's unfortunate, but sometimes the recruit has to come first, you know, over, you know, you're at a dinner date with your wife and the recruit calls you, you better pick it up. And some of that's a little bit unfortunate, but that's our job. And so you have to become a hard worker. I mean, you have to be a hard worker, and then you have to be very, very competitive. Recruiting has to be personal to you. If you lose a kid at Arkansas, any school in the country, it has to hurt you. It has to be personal, and I think it is to Stepp. I don't know that he was a huge note writer before I came in here, but I know he uses that a lot in his approach now. And then, you know, he's very, very believable because he tells the truth. And you know, if you just say what you feel and you come from the heart, I think the more you do it, the harder it is for those kids to say they no to you. And he gets on them early, and he stays on them. And you know, a lot of times time makes a difference in recruiting. You know, I've been recruiting a kid for 2 months. Somebody's been recruiting him for 2 years. I mean, time makes a difference, and we're trying to get on these kids early and not let that be a factor. And Stepp's real good about finding guys that he likes way ahead of each class.
Dudley.
You signed 2 linebackers in this class, 2 very productive ones. Just talk about them a little bit in Avan and Paul.
I like Marco. You know, he transferred schools, ended up over to Jonesboro, and I think he had a lot of improvement. Probably a lot of it's because he was a senior, you know, had another year, and obviously Jonesboro has it with Randy, has a great program over there, and but he's long. I think he's going to be a really big guy. He can run, so I think he's going to really develop into a defined player. And Paul out of Georgia, he's a Mike to me. He's big. You know, I don't know. I think he's probably around 250. He's a big linebacker, one that can handle the A gaps. We needed one of those guys because we're not real big at linebacker, and so we wanted to go out there and get him. We were very fortunate there, and I'm not telling you that one of our 4 remaining scholarships wouldn't be for a linebacker as well, but it might be one of those stand-up or defensive end type rushers, combination guys that could also, if you can stand up on the edge, you certainly can go into the middle. Now, I know they're two different positions, but body type, they're pretty much identical. And so, again, we be honest with you, Dudley, we just have to get bigger. When we run out there and other teams run out there, that's had a little bit longer to recruit than we have, then they look like an SEC team, and we're getting there, but we can't get pushed around on both sides of the ball. And the only way I know how to do that is sign bigger and better athletes and with your off-season program. So we just had one off-season program, and hopefully we will continue to improve that part of it. We have to give them big people to work with too, and that's what I believe we did in the linebacker spot.
Nate.
Yeah, Sam, just how difficult was it this year with the COVID deal where you easily one postponement away from playing a game this week, where you got a signing date and you're still trying to get your team ready to play? Just how difficult would that be, and how difficult was it for you?
It was hard to prioritize time. Certainly not this week, because this week was all about recruiting because we don't have a game. But last week was hard. You're looking at COVID numbers, losing kids on Tuesday at practice for whatever reason, all those different things. Plus, you're doing home visits at night. We had to get 23 of those in on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So you're looking, you look at 45 minutes to an hour on each one of those, and plus with film and watching practice and preparing for practice. When we tried to cut all that out until the evening, but the week of the Alabama game, obviously, had a lot going on, and I'm hoping that wasn't the reason that we didn't play well, but my mind tells me that there's something to that.
Hutch.
Yes, Sam, when you have so much of your class already signed and you said you got 4 spots left, what do the next couple of weeks and months look like from a recruiting standpoint? What are you going to try to get done? And can you kind of shift focus to 2022?
Well, you have to. Our focus has been on 2022 now, heavy focus over the last month. I think you have to, especially once we got pretty close to our number. But we have 4 left. I want to find the 4 best players in the world that can come in here and help us. And obviously, if that's a high school player, we're still going to recruit high school kids. But if that's a high school player, but my mind is telling me I want 4 guys that have played the game that can help us immediately. Now, that could be a kid, a very highly touted guy coming out of high school as well. I still don't believe that recruiting's over. And, in other words, I believe there's still really good players out there, because a year ago today we're sitting here and I don't remember how many we had signed, maybe 6. And my mind was believing that we was going to go sign the greatest class ever, and once you get out on the road, you realize a lot of the kids are gone already, so, but we're going to concentrate on those 4 very, very important scholarships, and we're going to move forward in the 2022 class.
2 more. Nikki.
Yeah, Coach, say visits start opening up this summer or something. How much better do you think a 2022 class can be once you can get kids on campus? How much easier is evaluating? I know it must already be tough with these 2022s to, trust the film.
Well, Nikki, I think you can always miss on a guy character-wise. You may not be around him enough and things of that nature. But it's very hard to miss on a kid athletically if you have him on your campus and he's worked out for you. You ask him to do exactly what you're going to ask, him to do in individual and in team. those are things that are a little bit scary about what's going on right now. You know, you want to make sure you're right on a kid, have him come to camp. And so that would be invaluable. I mean, that'd be crazy value to that. The other thing is, you know, going to people's homes and things, you can find out a lot about, and they can find out a lot about us too. But Arkansas, to me, is a school that if we can ever get them on campus, we have a much better opportunity to sign them. And certainly we haven't been able to do that, but, you know, we've made tapes and different things. We had virtual in-home visits and all that kind of stuff. But it's still not the personality of the people coming out and the sincerity and the honesty and all those things coming out. So I think anytime that we can get in front of them, and I think obviously camps, I guess to answer your question with one word, camps would be the thing that probably would help us more than anything.
Last one, Tom.
So you're pointing toward a bowl now, Sam. I wonder what you have any preferences? Would you like to keep it geographically close just due to the circumstances?
Well, I don't really know exactly what our bowl opportunities are as far as the starting point. You know, I would imagine it, you know, will be somewhere within the Texas, the Armed Forces, the Music City, possibly the Liberty Bowl, those bowls in that probably in that category, anticipation wise. On a normal year, you know, when you get to your pick, if on a normal year you would really want to pick proximity, you know, you'd want to be able to make it easy for the fans so you could load that stadium up and things of that nature. That's still a high priority for that, you know, if we were able to have a pick. But at the same time, you know, there's places you can go for recruiting and different things of that nature. There's a lot involved in where you end up in a bowl, and then sometimes they just pick you, and that's, you know, that's where you go. But so obviously Liberty sticks out because we're close. Texas sticks out because we recruit that state. Nashville sticks out because it's 8 hours from here or whatever, 8.5 hours, 9 hours. So, and Fort Worth. So all those bowls are located well. We just want to go, and when we go, we want to win it. So whichever one we can go in there and play well and win, that's the one we'd like to go to. But I'll discuss that with Hunter about what his thoughts are as well.